My name is Michelle Adkins. Welcome to the webinar today. I am the director of the Prenatal to 3 Capacity Building Hub, and we are hosting today's webinar. We are thrilled to have some great speakers who are going to talk about something that's oh so important, which is authentic community and family partnership and power sharing. And so we're really glad that you are with us today to learn from Vital Village and Rhonda and all of our speakers. I can't remember, from Connecticut and Texas. That's right. So we're so glad you're here. I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda.
Hi there, welcome. So excited for folks who are joining us today. Welcome to this special webinar of the Prenatal to 3 Hub at the Build Initiative in partner with Vital Village Networks. I'm Rhonda Alexander, Director of National Partnerships with Vital Village Networks, a collective of diverse change makers and organizations committed to pioneering sustainable approaches to transforming child, family, and community well-being. It has been my pleasure to support one of several communities of practice hosted by the PN3 Hub. As we begin our time together, I would really like to acknowledge that we're working to strengthen language justice practices. And so this webinar will be available with Spanish interpretation services provided by the Community Language Cooperative based in Colorado. At this time, I'd like to welcome Gisela to provide us with a brief orientation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gisela Escobedo, and I'm here with the Community Language Co-op. Y ahorita repito este mensaje en español. I just want to start by saying thank you to the organizers of this event for your commitment to language justice. Thank you for letting people to participate and engage in the language of their heart, the language that they feel most comfortable in. That is the language that we practice at home. So to create this space, we're going to be using simultaneous interpretation. When I finish saying this in Spanish, they're going to turn on interpretation, and you're going to see a globe icon on the bottom of your bar that says interpretation. If you're not fully bilingual, I ask that you select your preferred language, if it's English or Spanish. And if you're bilingual, you don't have to use our services. If you're joining today from a phone or a tablet, it has 3 dots on the bottom that says more. You're going to click on that, and then you're going to select your language as well. Now I'm going to say this in Spanish. Hola a todas las personas. Mi nombre es Gisela Escobedo y estoy aquí con la Community Language Co-op. Y quiero darle las gracias a los organizadores de este evento por su compromiso a la justicia del lenguaje. Gracias por crear una oportunidad donde las personas pueden participar, involucrarse en el idioma de su corazón, en el idioma que se sienten más cómodos, que es el idioma que practicamos en casa. Para crear este espacio vamos a estar usando la interpretación simultánea. Cuando termine de decir esto, van a aprender interpretación y usted va a ver un icono de un globo en la barra de abajo de su pantalla que dice interpretación. Si no es completamente bilingüe, le pido que seleccione su idioma preferido, ya sea inglés o español. Si es bilingüe, no necesita usar nuestros servicios. Si estás hoy con nosotros, vienen 3 puntitos donde dice más o more. Ahí le vas a dar un clic y seleccionas tu idioma. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. You can go ahead and turn on interpretation.
Great. I believe interpretation has now been turned on. So at this time, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to select the language that best suits your needs by clicking on the globe icon and clicking on English. So everyone will need to do this. So again, just please take a moment and select the language that best suits your needs. So let's keep going. Today's webinar will be recorded and posted and available within the next few days. Also, we encourage you to engage with us by sharing what resonates with you in the chat box and submitting questions through the Q&A Our guests will have an opportunity to respond to questions a little bit later in the hour. So just want to encourage you to continue sharing and engaging with us in that way. So let's keep going. So over the last 2 years, we here at Vital Village Networks have partnered with the Prenatal to 3 Hub, and we have hosted the Authentic Family and Community Engagement Community of Practice, or COP, where leaders from states and community-based coalitions came together to talk about and deepen their understanding of what it means and what it meant to authentically partner with parents and local leaders to design meaningful access to prenatal to 3 supports in their respective regions. So today you're going to hear from leaders from 2 communities who are active members of the community of practice, Tarrant County, Texas, and Bridgeport, Connecticut. They'll talk about how they're working together in their respective regions to reimagine what collaborative leadership looks like. We'll first hear from Amanda Cobb and Terry Whitick Jr. in Texas, followed by Jason Ann Johnson and Talon Cook in Connecticut. We'll then take as many questions as we can from participants before closing out with some announcements. All right. So I am, again, here are our speakers. I'm so excited to welcome them. And so I am now thrilled to welcome Amanda Cobb and Terry Whitick Jr. to hear more about shared leadership and partnership in Tarrant County, Texas. Just a little bit about them. Amanda Cobb is the staff liaison for Help Me Grow, Help Me Thrive, North Texas Family Advisory Council. Amanda has been a part of the Family Advisory Council since July of 2021 and helps lead efforts to ensure that family voice is heard and is at the center of all the work of Help Me Grow and Help Me Thrive. Terry Whitick Jr. is a former cemetery superintendent turned stay-at-home father. As a father of children, or as a father to children with autism, ADHD, DMDD, anxiety, OCD, and educational diagnoses, he is a highly motivated advocate for awareness for children with disabilities and mental health needs, as well as fathers' rights and inclusion. So now I'd like to welcome Amanda and Terry to join us on screen and begin.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are today. I'm so excited to be here with y'all and share some of our story of what we're doing here in North Texas. Like I said, we are Help Me Grow and also now Help Me Thrive. So we span the ages from prenatal all the way up through 17 years old. Go next slide. So just to give you a little background so you can kind of understand some of our successes and lessons learned a little bit. So we did kick off in the middle of COVID as the first affiliate in the state of Texas. We started in one county, Tarrant County, but now we serve 18 counties, which is over 14,000 square miles, which is larger than the country of Taiwan, just to give you some perspective. So what I'm going to say about that is it takes a village, it takes partners. We don't do this work alone. I am with My Health, My Resources of Tarrant County. We are one of the backbone agencies, as you can see on the screen. We have partners in the work in our region and in our state we have 4 backbone agencies. We are also supported by Tex Protects, which is our PN3 partner. And we have other partners just that are in the weeds in the work and helping us support. And through that, we also now have 10 family advisory council members. Terry is one of them that sits as our family voice and leadership for all the work that we do. To go next slide. Just sharing that one of the things that we take to heart is language justice. So we do always try to present all of our information in both English and Spanish as well. Next slide, please. To give you an idea of that 14,000 square miles. So this is our service area in North Texas. We also, again, were the first in Texas in 2019. And since we've kicked off, we have been the leader in also helping to support new sites pop up in Texas. We now have 13 affiliate sites, and even our state is supporting us with a Help Me Grow. We have a Help Me Grow state state office and support there now. So we're super excited to see that growth and support. So with Help Me Grow, there are four gears that drive the work. And what I do want to point out on this slide is that, so family and community outreach was one, but we felt family engagement was so important that we actually divided that to have its own subcommittee. So we have a group of community co-chairs that are healthcare providers, childcare providers, other child serving systems, community partners that sit at the table to drive this work. And family engagement is its own, because we want to make sure that we are meeting families where they are and they have family voice and leadership. So we felt that was so important that it is its own subcommittee in the work that we do. And we meet once a month with our partners and have family partners on every single one of these communities. Go to the next slide, please. Again, there it is in Spanish. The next slide. Next slide. Okay. These are our 10 family partners that are at the table. What I would love to share is that 7 of them are our original founding members, and we have added 3 more in the last year as we expanded our age to include our Help Me Thrive. We also were very strategic in terms of like looking at our service area and our population to make sure that we had a group of diverse parents at the table to represent our community, because only 10 parents out of 14,000 square miles is not a lot. So we really wanted to make sure we had some representation and diversity in our group. Next slide, please. And I wanted to share this. This is one picture of us as a group together. We are very spread out. So anytime we get a chance to get together, we love it. When we are all together in one space, there's over 50 of us when we include our spouses and our children. Next slide, please. So just to talk about recruitment, again, I think the thing here to remember is like when you're doing the work is you want to have family voice and you want to have that representation. And what we learned really quickly is that we really needed to lean into our partner organizations. When we were initially recruiting, really asking our partner and parent serving organizations, like who were the leaders in their communities, and to help us promote this opportunity for parent leadership and parent voice. And so I think that's one of the testaments of why our 7 founding members are still with us today after 3 years of the work. So we did have 38 apply, and those 7 members were the ones who rose to the top and are still with us today. Next slide, please. So like one of the things, as soon as our families were chosen, we immediately got them plugged in. We had them start attending our 5 subcommittees to share their voice and experience at the table. We also have them as a part of our community coalitions within their own communities, but also our regional communities. So our Early Childhood Wellness Council and now our Youth Community Council. Also, again, with that support and partnership, we quickly contracted with National Center for Families Learning to kick us off to ensure that we were providing equity, inclusion, compensation support for our families of how to do that, because that was new to us in our area. Also training and technical assistance and providing language justice. So they kicked us off, and now we actually partner with Community Language Co-op for our language justice and support. Next slide, please. So again, diversity, be strategic, look at what your service area is. And so we really wanted to be strategic with our partners to have that diversity. So now we started with 6 females and 1 male. I'm happy to say that we now have 3 dads at the table. And, representative of our community. We started with only 4 counties. We now have 6 counties out of the 18 represented, especially with our rural. And again, a range of education and a range of, background. We have GEDs to postgraduate, and we have stay-at-home parents and grandparents all the way through, people that work in our service industry as well that are parents and sitting at the table as a parent. Next slide, please. So one of the lessons too is that we spent a ton of time team building. I think it was really important that we we wanted to rush and get things going, but we also learned along the way that really needed to take time for our little group to get to know each other, especially since we were meeting virtually. So they started meeting bi-monthly in 2022. And then they started working as they were doing tons of team building. They named themselves, they started working on a mission statement and even taking on leadership roles within the group. It started as simple as who was going to do a community builder and a closing connection and help plan the agenda for the next meeting, to now they actually have leadership roles and co-chairs and treasurers and secretary and training advisors and community alignment. So we actually have roles now. And the other thing, and then I came on board in 2022 to help support this. And I think the lesson learned there is that it's really great to have a staff person that is dedicated to the family group that you have leading the work. And also, and it's not always possible, but I think it's also important if you have a staff member, make sure they have the time capacity to support the families, but also to have some lived experience. I think that is one of the things that help build connection with them too, as a mom. And as a mom with medically fragile children and having been through some of the same challenges, I think we were able to build a lot of rapport and trust really quickly for me to help lead that group. Next slide, please. The other thing too is let your parents take the wheel. When we expanded, our parents took the reins and took the recruitment process and really embedded their voice and leadership and recreated the process. And they updated the questions, created the rubric, created the plan. And so we were able to onboard 3 new members from our rural counterparts, and Terry is one of them. So like I said, we have 3 dads now. Next slide, please. And there's just our mission statement that they created, basically saying that they are a diverse group of parents to collaborate with us in our community, to co-create, co-educate, and advocate to make families strong. And now I'm going to turn it over to Terry so he can share some of the really awesome things that they've been doing. You can go to the next slide, please.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm over here talking. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Can we go to the next slide? My name is Terry Wydick, and I'm excited to be here with y'all. I'm going to go over first some of the successes and the highlights that our Family Advisory Council have experienced and done. We do a lot of team building, team unity, events where we do fellowship together and get to know each other, figuring out what each other's strengths are, building connections so that we know what Family Advisory Council members would be best for, different things that we might need done with the council, connecting to expertise to opportunities, working with community engagement, and just trying to help each other just overall be a better parent. And it's really strengthened us just as a unit, to have that support from each other. And like Amanda said, people that are experiencing kind of the same things, and it makes a big difference to have that support, and we've gained that together. And now we are working on trying to bring that camaraderie and support out to our communities individually where we are. Next slide. So in unifying our team, so we've done team building events where we'll go out with our families and just have fun and just build with each other. We do a lot of like Amanda said, we have a bi-monthly meeting where we discuss our topics and goals for our Family Advisory Council. We have a group text chat that everybody's in, where we're easily communicating with each other throughout the week. Meetings are on a routine, so everybody kind of knows, which Wednesday of the month, which Friday of the month we're going to be meeting. We're able to meet with Amanda for one-on-ones if we need any additional help. She's always there to help support us and kind of guide where she needs to help with. We have family celebrations where we get together for different events and different families in our advisory council's lives. and just support each other like a community should, like a family should. And it's just, we're all growing together. And, you know, Amanda said there were 7 original members of the Family Advisory Council. I'm one of the 3 newer members. And I feel like, you know, they were very welcoming to me, and we were all growing and bonding. And it's just an exciting thing to be a part of. Next slide. So this here just lists some of our accomplishments that we've done. We do participate in the Help Me Grow and Help Me Thrive subcommittees. You know, trainings that come available, we're able to attend trainings. I went to Wow Talk training and Parent Cafe training, and now I'm certified to do Parent Cafes, as well as some of the other members of the Family Advisory Council. Just connecting with the people in the communities, you know, going to fairs and different events where we can, you know, share information about Help Me Thrive and Help Me Grow to other, you know, members of our communities and other communities around us. And I think one of the biggest things for me, and why this was so important for me to get involved in this work, is that when families that need help from Help Me Grow and Help Me Thrive and these resources that they offer, it's always so comforting, I guess I would say, to have a family like your family share these things with you, or share testimonials about, you know, their experiences, because it's very easy for someone who works in the field to say, hey, we have these resources, and these resources are here for you, and I know your family's struggling, and we're here to help you with these things. But to have a family that has been there, and to have them say those things to you, to me, it makes a world of difference, you know. And I know, it's like Amanda said, she experiences, you know, certain things with her family that I can relate to, and it brings a sense of comfort within our group, I think, to know that we're all in the same boat, and to share that with the community, that, hey, we're all here, we're all humans, and we're all working on these things, and there are supports for you, and here we are. I just think it's an amazing thing to be a part of. Next slide. So these are our learning opportunities that we have from the FAC members, learning from partners and providers. So just different things that we've done, different members have done, to just help educate our Family Advisory Council, and gain knowledge for us to help share that out with our communities. So like I said, you know, TBRI training, Parent Cafe trainings. Hey, there I am. I popped up finally. Maybe y'all seen me the whole time, but it just popped up for me. Seizure and first aid training, just a lot of different things, domestic violence training, child abuse, a lot of just different trainings and educations that team members on our team have had, just to allow to broaden our knowledge. And we'll go out to trainings and get training, a few of us, and then bring that back in one of the meetings, to share with the entire group. And it's just, you know, a big mixing pot of different educations that help us all grow and help our communities, because like Amanda said, we're across 18 counties. I'm on the far west side, Edward's on the far east side of our serving area. And it is a challenge for us all to get together. But you know, it makes a big difference when we have all these different learning opportunities and things that we can share. Maybe some people can't make it to everything, but you know, we can come back together and share that information with each other. Next slide.
Yeah. And Terry, I just want to say thank you. I want to make sure we will want to also make sure we get a little bit of time to hear from our friends over in Connecticut. But I do want to so just reiterate that we'll have time for questions and Q&A, so we can share much more, and want to invite folks to continue sharing. So maybe if we take like 30 more seconds, and then we'll turn it over to our friends in Connecticut.
Can you forward to our takeaway slides?
Yeah.
I think it's it's past that, yeah.
Did I pass it?
No, keep going.
There we go.
There we go. So, Terry, do you want to share your takeaways, and I'll share mine and close this out?
Sure. Sure. And I'm sorry, I'm long-winded sometimes and I'll drag out, and I do apologize for that, guys. So three takeaways really, and just to sum this up real fast, we had to build our team together and build a camaraderie before we could just kind of jump out and start trying to help others in our communities. And so step one is build your team, build the community between y'all. Step two, is to go out into your community and try to share that camaraderie and teamwork, with your community. And then number three, just to be able to get people plugged into the same kind of information that you're gathering, and so they can do the same things for themselves. And that's it for me.
And I was just going to say, again, like what Terry said, really take time to build that team and trust with the parents that you have, and advocating for them. Like I started attending meetings with them, their subcommittee meetings, to make sure that they were raising their voice and helping to lift their voice and give them the confidence to be able to share. And then again, lean into your partner organizations. Like don't try to do this alone. You have a lot of parents or you have a lot of organizations that are doing the same thing. Partner together, combine your efforts instead of trying to duplicate efforts. Like lean into each other and really support one another. Thank y'all.
Thanks
And
so
I
much.
can put my information in the chat for y'all if anybody wants to reach out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amanda and Terry. I think we'll have your contact information here. Folks can continue to add questions to the chat box, and when we get to our Q&A in just a little bit, we'll have time to come back to those. So I'd now like to turn things over to Jason Ann Johnson and Talon Cook to share some best practices and lessons learned from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Just a little bit about them. Jason Ann Johnson leads the prenatal and early childhood strategy efforts at Bridgeport Prospers, an initiative of United Way of Coastal and Western Connecticut, where the focus is cradle to career collective impact. And Talon Cook leads community engagement efforts at Bridgeport Prospers, working with Bridgeport's youth and resident groups with a focus on outreach, education, and advocacy. So I'm going to stop my screen share. We're going to spotlight Jason Ann and Talon and give them a minute to get their slides up, and then we'll go ahead and get going. Thank you so much.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are so happy to be here with you to share some of the work that we've done at Bridgeport Prospers. Thank you to Rhonda and Vital Village and the Build Initiative for inviting us to discuss how we engage authentically with our community. At Bridgeport Prospers, we're honored that we get the opportunity to lead with a people-first mindset, doing everything with integrity and with a focus on equity. So, there we go. Just a little bit about Bridgeport Prospers. We are a Strive Together Cradle to Career organization housed at the United Way of Coastal and Western Connecticut. Our mission is to advance equitable systems change that promotes the well-being of Bridgeport's children and families. I will now turn it over to Talon.
Thank you. Thank you all. Good afternoon, everybody. So for us to live out our mission, there are 4 principles that we ground our work in. First is shifting power to community, and that means simply where youth and families are involved and they are the decision makers, and they co-develop the priorities and strategies for our organization. Next is equity. All that we do is through the equity lens of fairness and then the best interests of others. Third is collaboration. We use a collective impact model involving all sectors, for example, from housing, education, law enforcement, just to name a few, to be thought partners with us. And as well, data. Our decisions through Bridgeport Prospers are made solely through the conversations we have through community around what's happening on the ground, because they are simply the experts. And we also get a real view on what's happening locally and how families are involved in the programs and services throughout Bridgeport, so that we can identify where the gaps are and we can figure out the strategies to make changes together. Turn it back over to Jason and the next slide.
So we have 4 main focuses. We focus on resilience, early childhood health and wellness, education, workforce development, and the thread that connects all of our work, community engagement. In our community engagement model, we have civic influencers, parent ambassadors, and community messengers.
Our civic influencers are our youth advocates. They are involved in our community and they are learning about how policies and decisions are made locally and statewide. And they also learn how to use their voice by advocating. They write testimonies and they amplify the issues to the decision makers from their point of view, like our city council members or our senators. Our parent ambassador group are a network of parents with children under 6 who support one another. They focus on education and really more so the parent and child relationship and how that could be developed. And lastly, our community messengers. They are civic-minded volunteers who some of them are business owners, some of them are just members in the community, some of them are community health workers, but they are actually tapped into the resources that are in community. So for example, if a member needs help on how to apply for SNAP benefits, our messengers are equipped with that information and knowledge to help them navigate.
So these are just some photos of a few events that our community advocate team co-developed with us, and they also co-facilitate. At Bridgeport Prospers, we do a variety of large and intimate events, from tabling and hosting fairs to read alouds and documentary screenings, everything in between. So a tool that we use to evaluate how we interact with our community is called the Community Engagement Spectrum. It shows the progression from not engaging with community to what it means to shift power to the community. So what that looks like is, if an organization is not engaging, that means decisions are being made without considering the community. It looks like telling our advocates what we need them to do without any discussion. When you are informing the community, you might be sending out flyers or doing infographics. Some of your social media posts would fall under this category as well. And then when we move to consulting, that's when we're going out, we're collecting surveys, and we're really using that feedback to guide our work.
When we're involving, that means some of the decisions are made with the community involvement in their lived experiences. So for example, our advocates are in our planning meetings. They are helping us make decisions around what we do with our programs, our events, and our services. When we're collaborating, community residents and our partners actually have former roles in our partnership. So that means holding roles in our work groups. That means creating memorandum of understandings, agreements to define shared goals and expectations, and collaborative facilitation. So an example of that is our current work with the Connecticut Data Collaborative, who we partnered with. We have shared goals around youth engagement, and we currently have an agreement with them for them to provide some capacity support and share with our teams, providing education on data analysis and storytelling. So they help us meet our goals, and they provide the capacity support. And lastly, shifting power, where our community members are the decision makers. They co-develop our priorities and strategies. And one example that we're really proud of that is we've been able to, one of our board members started off as a community messenger. And over the years, through their voice, their leadership, and their advocacy, and their true involvement for wanting to make real lasting change, and a seat opened up on our board so that they can be that community representation. So they've been on our board for quite some time, and they help us make the final decision over our organization.
So of course, shifting power to community is not an easy thing to do. It's not a one overnight process, and it's also not quite linear. Some challenges or thorns that we've experienced throughout the time are language barriers, limited event participation, capacity issues, and managing expectations. Some roses, or what's working for us, is our collaborations. As you heard, we really lead with that collective model, collective impact model, where we know that not one organization, not one group can move the needle on anything. Some of our other roses is being able to expand our team. So our community advocate team has been growing. Our parent ambassadors went from 0 to now we have 4, and the same with our youth group also. Some buds, some things that we are continuously working on are being able to provide leadership development, trust, because of course, trust, there's never a time where it's being finished. We're always building trust. And of course, shifting power to community. It takes time, and there's no end to that. There's always ways where we can improve in that area. We work to overcome our thorns by being consistent and being transparent. We're always looking for opportunities where we can evolve and place community in authoritative positions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason Ann and Talon. Would love to invite Terry and Amanda back on camera. And we're going to spotlight. I'm just going to share a quick reminder for folks. We have been getting some great questions in the Q&A. And so we're going to take as many of those as possible. We have a good chunk of time to do that. So just a reminder, if you want to know how to do that, just take a quick look at your screen in terms of where you can go to submit questions. We're going to get to as many as possible. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm going to start with some of the questions that are in our chat box or in the box. But I will invite us to maybe try and be a little more brief just so we can get to as many as possible. So first question, and this is for our team in Texas, is what's the purpose of the Family Advisory Council in Texas?
I can start and Terry can chime in if on top of it too. I mean, our purpose is that they are kind of our governing parent body for the work that we do to guide, to give us that parent voice and leadership. All of the parents that sit at on that council are tied to other parent organizations across our 18-county service area. So kind of being that liaison to share what's happening in their communities to guide our work, because Help Me Grow is a system of care where we are connecting families to resources. So we want to make sure that we're doing that and creating our marketing, creating our outreach, that the things that we are offering as part of our system are actually with the parents in mind and having like their needs at the table, so that they are kind of being that voice for their communities for the work that we're doing.
Awesome. Terry, anything you want to add?
I think she summed it up quite well. I mean, we're the family voice that helps kind of guide some of what Help Me Grow and Help Me Thrive does, you know.
Awesome. For this next question, I think maybe we'll start with Connecticut and then we can jump in here from Texas as well. But this question is there compensation for families who participate?
Of course.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's,
That's the one thing that we believe in is paying for people's time. That's something that's really important to us, is making sure that the families that are receiving this information and being able to connect with other families are compensated properly.
Right. We really view our families, if you are an organization and you hire a consultant, they get paid, right? So of course we make sure that our families are compensated for our time. And we've actually now received funding, and I'm hoping to be able to bring on one of our parents to be at least a part-time member of staff. So when we talk about shifting power, this is what we mean. Like, we are actively working towards that.
And we also compensate our parents because we do believe that they should be compensated for their voice and expertise at the table. We've even started a system that when our families are, because we have 3 bilingual members, and when they are helping to provide translation and interpretation for our community, because they do look at all of our everything that we do that goes out and that is in their home language, their heart language, that it is family friendly and it makes sense and it is valuable to them. So we actually do a little more compensation when they are doing that additional work to make it fair and equitable for the work that they are doing there as well. As always, and it's probably the same in Connecticut, finding the funding for people that will pay or help us pay parents is a challenge. Even with some of the grants that we get, they're like, yes, you need to pay parents, but not with us. So, being creative and finding that source of funding is definitely can be a challenge.
Yeah, how important it is to show parents and families and community members how much we value them. We value their time, we value their energy, we value the intellectual value and property that they bring to this work. So our next question, I'll leave this open for anybody. It says, one of the challenges we're having is a lot of our families are feeling burned out and cannot take on more. Do you have any tips for supporting families so that those who are involved do not burn themselves out?
I can jump in here. When we think about even ourselves, when we get burnt out, what are the things that we need to do to kind of recharge and re-energize? I think that when we are dealing with community and dealing with families, we also need to keep that in mind. Being mindful that these are parents, they have their work also. And then when they come home, their children are there and it can also be seen as more work. So when we are meeting with them, being able to take the time apart to focus on mindfulness, I encourage my parents to come to show up as their whole self. And what does that mean is if they come and I'm noticing that they might not be in the best of moods, they might not, maybe they didn't have a good day, they're experiencing stress and anxiety, we take the time to address that. Actually, because of course we all go through it, hearing from my parents, we are now starting to launch in our Dine and Discuss community conversations, we are now going to be launching a self-care part of it because self-care is childcare. So, being able to listen to our parents and acknowledge that, first of all, life is hard. And it's hard for everyone. So just taking the time to encourage those good habits, and you also need to lead by example. So making sure that you're also doing that.
And the same with us as well, with me as well, with the community advocates and the youth. Every single meeting, we always check in. How are you doing? How are you really doing for real? And throughout the year, it has been a challenge, especially after the pandemic. We've been planning a self-care, some sort of self-care retreat for our group. So that's something that we're looking forward to do, is to take a little stress off. It's not going to be work related at all. So that's how we are intentional about making sure we amplify the mindfulness piece of this work.
Amanda or Terry?
I was going to let Terry go first as the parent.
Yeah. We do have our meetings scheduled for, after work hours most of the time, and the first word of Family Advisory Council is family, right? And so, I was worried when I was joining up for this, and the team made it clear, hey, like, our kids are here, we're doing this, we are all families, and this is just how it is. And so, I remember one of my first meetings, one of the members, one of their children was balancing like 3 or 4 books on top of her head in the background of her video. And, my son might come and pop his face way up in the camera, and talk for a second. And it's just, it's it grows us more, because all of our real lives are kind of out on display a little bit for each other. And it makes it more comfortable because you don't have to worry about, well, I need a quiet space, hey, make sure you take the kids and make sure everybody's calm and don't come back in this room, because I'm on this conference. And so it's free. It's free for us. Everybody is real and open and honest. And, we might have an agenda for a meeting and get in there and we talk about something totally different because that's what comes up. That's a community member or a council member that, as I say that, my son is running right back in this room right now. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because here he is.
No, I think what you all have highlighted is, I think Jason and he talked about the importance and the value of showing up as your full self and not having to compartmentalize. And our families are a part of who we are. So you might have a dog, a kid, or whatever it is in the background, and that's a part of your space. And so that just feels so powerful. And Jason, I think, and I heard you and Terry also talk about flexibility and being able to flex. Like, having an agenda is a great idea. And if we need to pivot so that we can check in on us because we're humans first, that's huge. That is creating a sense of belonging. So I really appreciate that. I'm gonna keep us moving because we have a lot more questions that are very popular. And so Amanda, maybe you might be interested in starting with this question. What questions have you asked community about the services they need? We're looking for some good phrasing.
Oh my goodness. So can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. What questions have you asked the community about services they need?
I mean, honestly, like sometimes when we are out in the community, it's just starting that conversation of like, how are you doing? What is, if there's one thing that that we could do for you that would be helpful, what is that one thing? And I think too, when we do go out into community, having our families with us to have that connection, or we can make those connections to create that safe space to be able to share. Sometimes we're strategic about what communities we're going into because, again, we are such a huge area, like ensuring that we have representation because I'm just gonna say, it's me as a white woman going into a Hispanic or a Black community is not going to build trust off automatically. But when we are going out to those communities, having our partners that can relate or look like them, or even like having our dads at the table, with us, I think helps open up and build that trust with our communities. So that they can be more honest with us about what their needs are. Like Terry saying, like Terry as a single dad is going to connect with the dads way quicker and have, to build that community and trust for them to be more open about what their needs are. So sometimes it's just simple about like, what are you struggling with? Like, how can I help you?
Jason, Ann, and Talon, anything you want to add?
I would just echo
Valid, yeah.
what Amanda says. When I'm out in the community, I'm just like them, really, because I'm from the community. So I'm having those conversations like what's really going on, and I take that feedback and I try to figure out solutions with our team, as well as pulling in the partners that are already doing some of the work to these needs, and bringing all of them to the table as collaborators. So, yeah.
I
Definitely.
think a great example of that talent is the work that the youth have done over the summer, where they've created a survey for them to go out and talk to community and to really figure out what they need. When we talk about, creating things in a language where community would respond to and feel comfortable, responding, answering. Bring the community in so that they can create those questions, because no one knows how to best communicate with their peers than a peer. So just being able and being mindful when we talk about that continuum to shifting power, that's where you want to get to be able to have people at the table also working to create these surveys and to create these tools to get information.
Thanks so much. So I'm going to jump around our questions a little bit. We only have about 4 more minutes of questions, but there was a question around what suggestions might you all have around male engagement? Terry, I wonder if you might be willing.
Yeah, surely. It the male presence in this whole field, from a professional standpoint and from a parental standpoint is minimal, and that's one of the big reasons I wanted to get onto this council, to show other dads in my community and other communities, like, hey, it's cool to like learn these things, like it's okay to be vulnerable about learning about parenting and not know all the answers, and to show up, right? And there's really not a lot of stuff out there for dads. When I was going through some hard times when my divorce was happening, I was looking for like dad support groups and how to say, be a single parent and how to co-parent with your spouse, and there's just was not anything out there for dads. And so I mean, I understand. Well, let me just say, like, I want dads to be involved. Dads are parents too, right? Dads do the same things as moms, when it comes to helping and raising these children and do these things, and I've got a favorite quote that talks about, shining your light liberates others, right? And so if I'm a dad and I'm coming out there and I'm doing these things, it shows other dads that they can come out and do these kind of things too. And that's, hopefully it's going to open up kind of just like a waterfall of acceptance from other fathers to come out to support in these areas.
Don't worry, we will have more. We'll get more of this. I think we have time for one more question. We have lots more questions here, but I want to be really transparent. Like, an hour is a little bit of time, but we will have some follow-up pieces. So we'll make sure to try and get to some of these questions in the written follow-up pieces. Here is one question that I think might be really interesting to close us out on. What's your advice for convincing decision makers to invest time and resources to building authentic relationships and team dynamics necessary for success?
So, when we're speaking to, whether it be funders or investors, you have to speak to them in a language that they understand, right? And a lot of times when you talk about funds, money, right? So understanding that when you're investing in the community, when you're investing into the people who are there, when you're bolstering their lives, you're also bolstering the economy. And being able to talk to them about that, and maybe focusing on that and not necessarily you just knowing your audience. We know that the community voice is necessary for our work. And sometimes, depending on the investor that you might have, they're not open to that. So you have to talk to them, knowing your audience and knowing what matters to them. So it does require a little bit of research on your end to make sure that you know what their values are, what their priorities are, so that you can tailor the language to serve their needs and your needs also.
I was just going to kind of say, kind of mirror that too, but I also think that when you can bring in the data, but you can bring in the family stories alongside the data and have like the impact. Like, we have impact surveys that we do, and we bring those stories in with the data and like the return on investment all the time to show. And I think having those two pieces together, you can show them the return on investment with the data numbers, but you can also pull on their heartstrings when you share those impactful stories about how what they are funding is impacting the community and how it's made lives better. So like having those two things together, I think is really important. We try to do that in a lot of the work.
Wow. This has been such a powerful conversation. Jason, Ann, Talon, Amanda, Terry, thank you so much for just taking the time to share how you all are working to build and maintain these really deep and authentic partnerships with parents, community leaders, and youth. I think often we don't remember the youth. As a way to ensure that families have access to the tools and the resources they need, not only to get through the first 3 years of the lives of their little ones, but from cradle to career. And I think that your work is really critical to shifting power and supporting children, families, and communities to thrive. To our participants, before you leave today, we have just a few announcements to share about what's coming up soon. So I'm just going to reshare my screen for a moment and keep us moving along. So the Vital Village Networks and the Prenatal to 3 Hub at the Build Initiative, we're going to be posting some follow-up blogs and resources as some companion pieces to today's webinar. But in the meantime, I invite you to check out the Now Playbook, which is kind of a how-to guide to transformative community capacity to advance equity. This features tools as well as best practices from coalitions across the country on how to build new futures together. Secondly, I'm not going to lie, I'm very excited about this. Registration is now open for the 11th Annual National Community Leadership Summit hosted by Vital Village Networks. I just want to shout out that Jason Ann was one of our speakers last year and just knocked the house down. But this national gathering brings together grassroots, trailblazing local leaders from across the country who are dedicated to helping children and families get equitable access to the resources they need to thrive. It will take place in Boston, October 1st and 2nd. So please be sure to visit the website linked in the chat to learn more and to register. We would love to have you all there. And it is a great space for parent community leaders, but just for anybody who's really interested in connecting deeply with community. Also, you, of course, can follow us, Vital Village Networks, but really just want to thank you all so much. I'd now like to turn it back over to Michelle Atkins and of the Build Initiative to just share some final closing remarks. Thank you all so much for having us and for holding this space, Michelle.
So glad that you could join us today. I do want to do a shout out to the Prenatal to 3 Capacity Building Hubs Exchange, where experts, parents, program people join together to ask questions, share information. If you are not a member of the exchange, I'm gonna see if I do this right. There is a, there's the link in the chat so that you can go there and set up your account as a user. We'd also like to just say, please, 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 if you can take a moment to share your thoughts and feelings about the webinar today. It really helps us make sure that we meet your needs and do as you would like for us to do. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, and we will see you next time.